Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are plunging headfirst into a strategic brief that, well, it outlines what might be the most critical shift happening right now in the Nepali digital economy. And we're not talking about, new content trends or some new platform. This is about fundamentally redefining what marketing even is when you're in the boardroom. The source material opens with this dramatic, almost cinematic scene. I think a lot of you listening will recognize this. Picture this. It's Kathmandu, 2026, a very sleek, modern boardroom. The marketing agency is up there presenting a deck that is it's visually dazzling. Metrics are soaring.
Yeah, all the classic ones.
Exactly. We're talking 300% growth in Instagram reach, a campaign that got, say, 50,000 likes, and a TikTok video that genuinely went viral with 1 million views. The agency is just beaming.
They're expecting a huge bonus, but then the camera, it pulls back, and you see the chief financial officer, the CFO, and she's just looking at the company's internal dashboard, a boring black and white, and the actual sales figures for that quarter, completely flat. And the punchline in the source material is just brutal. The inevitable conclusion is the agency gets fired.
And that one scene, that sudden cold snap, it really signals the end of an era, doesn't it? The whole generous, freewheeling approach where brand awareness was this achievement in itself.
Yeah.
It's just gone.
It's over, exactly. And our mission today is to really dissect this briefing for you because it documents this tectonic shift. We are moving from this nebulous goal of reach.
How many people saw it?
Right. To the hard, unforgiving reality of revenue. How much money did that ad actually put back into the company? And the core argument is stated so clearly. It's really the new mandate for any marketing chief. It says any marketing effort, no matter how creative, no matter how many awards it wins, if it cannot be directly and rigorously tied to a verifiable sales outcome, it's not marketing anymore.
It's an expensive hobby.
It is an expensive hobby. That's the term they use.
That is a harsh new reality. And it brings up a question for me immediately. Why now? Why did it take a post-pandemic economic tightening for CFOs to finally ask these hard questions? For years, marketing departments have been shielded by ambiguity.
Because that ambiguity was their best friend. I mean, they were protected by these catch-all phrases like, oh, we're investing in the brand, or you can't quantify top-of-mind awareness. And honestly, when capital was cheap, when the economy was buoyant, leadership could afford that. It was just a cost of doing business.
Well, when that capital dried up, and when this aggressive, data-savvy, cross-border competition started coming in,
the protection just collapsed. The economic tightening empowered the CFO. It forced them to demand accountability. They had to ask that one question that traditional marketers just dread. What was our return on ad spend, our ROAS? And what's fascinating is how quickly the old metrics get exposed as, well, the brief calls them vanity metrics.
So give us an example. When an agency comes in and says, we got 1 million impressions, why should a CFO immediately be skeptical of that?
Because an impression is just a report of a cost. It's not a result. An impression just means the ad rendered on a screen, or maybe just part of it rendered. It proves absolutely nothing about intent. The source uses this brilliant local analogy. Reporting 1 million impressions is it's like reporting how many cars drove past your billboard on the ring road.
Right, it's a big number.
It's a huge, impressive number. But if you can't track which of those drivers actually stopped, came in, and bought your product, it is functionally useless for making business decisions.
Okay, so impressions are out. What about metrics that feel a bit more tangible, like likes and shares?
They're only marginally better. They represent this momentary, extremely low commitment engagement. Someone just double-tapped on their phone while waiting for the elevator. And in the Nepali context specifically, where consumer trust can be fragmented, that little tap has a notoriously weak correlation to actual purchasing intent. They are the definition of vanity. They make the team feel good, but they don't move the needle on revenue.
So if we accept this new reality, this new mandate, what's the ultimate consequence for the leadership team? It sounds like just approving these budgets becomes a problem.
It stops being a debate about marketing and it becomes a discussion about financial governance. The analysis highlights a really hard truth. By 2026, a CFO who approves budgets based on just likes is arguably damaging shareholder value. So firing an agency that can't prove its direct revenue contribution, it stops being a punishment. It becomes a non-negotiable fiduciary duty. The market is demanding math, not magic.
Okay, if vanity metrics are the problem, we need a real solution. The brief moves pretty quickly from the problem to the technical fix. It pushes us past old, irrelevant data, things like browser cookies, and towards this necessary infrastructure, the conversion API. Now, for anyone listening who hears API and immediately feels a bit intimidated, can you simplify this for us?
Absolutely. Think of the old system, cookies, as a leaky garden hose. It's easily blocked by browsers. It's unreliable. Data gets lost. The conversion API, on the other hand, is like a dedicated, secure fiber optic table. Its function is really simple. It's a direct server-to-server bridge. So instead of relying on the user's browser, your company's own sales data from your e-commerce backend or your CRM sends a signal directly and securely to the marketing platform, Meta, Google, whoever.
Okay, walk me through that. Let's use a local example. How's that attribution actually work?
For sure. So a customer sees your ad on Instagram, they click it, they go to your website, maybe it's a custom one, or maybe you're selling on Daraz. They put an item in their cart, and they pay using PhonePe or eSIWA. The moment that sale is confirmed on your end, your server triggers the conversion API.
And sends a signal back.
Instantly. A secure signal zips back to, say, Facebook and attributes that NPR 5000 sale directly to the specific ad that person clicked, maybe hours or even days earlier.
Wait a minute. So if the company is sending its sales data directly to Facebook, doesn't that raise some huge privacy concerns or just give them a massive amount of power?
That is the critical question, and the brief addresses it. The data is generally hashed, which means all the personal user data is scrambled and anonymized before it's sent. But the trade-off is very real. You are essentially giving the marketing platform perfect data so it can optimize its algorithms. It ensures your ad money is spent only on users who are highly likely to convert.
Right. So the whole conversation with the CFO changes.
Completely. It shifts from, we reached 1 million people to the very specific verifiable claim. We spent NPR 100,000. We generated NPR 450,000 in direct sales. Our ROAS is 4.5. The new standard for any agency pitching you isn't their creative portfolio. It's their ability to implement this deep technical integration.
That kind of perfect tracking leads us right into what the analysis calls the great influencer correction. This is so relevant in Nepal, where influencer marketing just exploded. But the sources say that initial success led to a bloated, inefficient market.
It absolutely did. The sources explain that, in a low-trust economy, a credible personality is a shortcut to consumer confidence. The early adopters reaped huge rewards, but then success became visible, and suddenly everyone was an influencer. And the market just standardized on these massive flat fees.
With no accountability.
Zero accountability. A brand would pay a lifestyle influencer, say, NPR 200,000 for one Instagram story. The story gets 100,000 views, fine. But the brand looks at its sales data, and there is no way to tell if a sale came from that influencer or just a generic Google search.
So they were just throwing six-figure sums into a black box, hoping it worked.
Yes.
But if the economy demands proof of ROAS, that whole model just
collapses. It collapses completely.
Right.
The great correction of 2026 is uncompromising on this. Influencers must evolve into commissioned sales agents. Brands can no longer afford to treat them like billboards. They have to be treated as a verifiable, performance-based channel.
But wouldn't that drive away the really high-quality creators, the people who have genuine trust and can already demand those high flat fees? Why would they agree to be commission only?
That is the challenge, and it requires a big pivot from the influencers themselves. The source material argues the best ones who genuinely believe their content drives sales, should be motivated to tie their income to those sales. The new model looks more like this. Compensation shifts from a flat fee to a performance-based affiliate model, maybe a small base fee for production, plus a significant percentage of the revenue they generate.
And how do brands track that? Mechanically, how does that work for an individual?
With trackable tools. The influencer can't just post a picture anymore. They have to use unique, trackable URLs. We call them UTM links. Or give their audience a personalized discount code, like use BuyCashH10 for 10% off. Every click on that link, every sale using that code is tracked through the brand's conversion API. And this just mercilessly separates the professional marketers from the mere celebrities. The key question for a brand isn't how many followers do you have anymore?
It's what's your average conversion rate?
Exactly. A much, much harder business question.
This relentless focus on tracking every single interaction brings us to the ultimate capability the sources identify: building a full-funnel attribution engine. If the API is the tool, this is the science. Define that for us.
Full funnel attribution is the science of assigning proportional financial credit to every single touchpoint on the customer's journey, from the very first time they hear about you to the final purchase.
Because that journey is never a straight line.
Almost never. Let's use the example from the brief. A consumer sees your awareness ad on Instagram. Fine. 2 weeks later, they see a trusted, independent review of your product. Then they search on Google for competitors, and finally, they click a promotional link you sent on Viber before they buy. The old last-click model gives 100% of the credit to that Viber link. But a modern attribution engine credits all the stacks: Instagram for awareness, the review for trust, Google for intent. It gives you a true picture of what drives growth.
And to understand the power of this, the brief tells Nepali businesses to look across the border at India's D2C direct-to-consumer explosion. Brands like Mama Earth or Lenskart. What's the lesson there?
They scaled exponentially not by building stores first, but by mastering this engine. They became fanatical data scientists. They knew their precise cost per acquisition, or CPA, for every customer, and more importantly, they knew the customer lifetime value, or LTV. When you know exactly what a customer is worth and exactly what it costs to get them, you can spend aggressively and confidently online. And that's how they outcompeted these huge legacy brands.
So for Nepal to even try and replicate that, the sources point to 3 really critical local hurdles that have to be overcome.
The first, and it's probably the most difficult internal one, is the technology and talent gap. The tools are complex, and there is a severe shortage of data analysts and performance marketers who can actually manage these systems.
And the analysis makes a very sharp point here.
It does. It says that while the market is demanding fluency in LTV to CAC ratios, many business schools are still teaching the 4 Ps of marketing. Conceptually sound, but digitally outdated. Agencies don't just need social media managers anymore. They need growth leads who live in dashboards. This means you either poach expensive foreign talent or you rapidly re-educate the local workforce.
Okay, hurdle number 2 is the fragmentation of infrastructure, the final mile of the transaction.
Right. Our digital payments ecosystem, PhonePe, eSwa, has grown so much, but the checkout process is often still slow or convoluted. If that payment gateway stalls, the customer abandons their cart.
And a data trail goes cold.
Exactly. The conversion API never gets the final signal, and your marketing spend looks inefficient even if the ad was perfect. Seamless integration is completely non-negotiable.
And the third hurdle is policy, regulation.
Yes, the regulatory environment. The brief highlights the friction from Nepal Rashtra Bank policies on international payments. To run a world-class attribution engine, you need subscriptions to specialized analytics software platforms like HubSpot or Mixpanel. These are subscription-based. And while dollar cards have helped, the process of reliably paying for these expensive, sophisticated services is still cumbersome. Streamlining that is a fundamental economic enabler.
So as we look toward 2026, the sources frame the choice for Nepali businesses as 2 very stark divergent paths.
The first path, and it's the easiest one, is the muddle through. These businesses stick with the old ways, hiring based on creative portfolios focused on vanity metrics. Their customer acquisition costs will spiral. Their market share will erode, not to big rivals, but to tiny D2C startups and aggressive cross-border players from India and China who can acquire Nepali customers more cheaply because they know the math.
And the second path, the harder one, is the alpha pivot.
This is the path to survival. These businesses prioritize their tech stack APIs, attribution models, and they prioritize data talent over old overheads. Their board meetings are about ROAS and LTV, not follower counts. They're building a defensible moat with proprietary customer data. These, the analysis concludes, will be the market leaders of the 2030s.
It sounds like something you can solve with money and tech. But the brief says there's one barrier that's even harder to overcome.
That is the hard truth, and maybe the most crucial point. The biggest barrier isn't capital or technology, it's culture. Established leaders built their empires in a pre-digital world on instinct and relationships. They are instinctively uncomfortable trusting abstract metrics. For a seasoned CEO, trusting a 28-year-old data scientist's spreadsheet, a spreadsheet that says their gut feeling was wrong, it feels deeply unnatural. It's a crisis of confidence in your own experience.
Yet the source material is unequivocal. The CEO of 2026 has to have the courage to trust that data, to delegate authority to the mathematically literate. That is the essential leap. This has been a really necessary, tough analysis. To sum it up, the new battlefield needs perfect tracking with convergent APIs, influencers as performance agents, and a fanatic obsession with attribution data. The comfortable age of ambiguity is it's over.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the crisis isn't really about marketing tools, it's a crisis of leadership mindset, which raises an important question for you, the listener. If the future belongs to the mathematically literate, and if relying on gut instinct is no longer enough to survive, what tangible internal steps do you need to take to ensure your boardroom culture actively supports, trusts, and empowers that 28-year-old data scientist to lead your most critical revenue decisions? That cultural transformation is where the real work begins.